Welcome to the Concert Queen Connect. My name is Clarissa Cardes. I'm so excited to have you here today because we are going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart as well as yours. And it's going on all across the world. And it's something that we don't really know what is happening or what the future is. And that is music venues. There's been a lot of talk throughout all of 2020, 2021. They have been the ones that have kind of been left on the wayside. There's been different initiatives like Save Our Stages with NEVA and all of these grants and things like that, and trying to get things passed so that way we can save our stages. There is this whole ecosystem of music that has been affected. So on this particular show, we've had artists, we've had promoters, and now we have venues. And I'm going to have someone here, but I started to talk to the different venues and was figuring out who was going to be the guest that I was going to have. And I realized that every single venue has a very different story. So today we're going to talk about the different venues and basically how their model has changed and the things that they're doing today, the ways that we can help support them. So that way we have music venues when this is hopefully all said and done. We know how to navigate it. We know how to help them. We know how to literally save our music venue so that way we have a place to go and watch concerts, support artists, support live music. One of the things that I noticed, and just from hearing the different managers and the people that are running these venues, the one common theme that they all have is, number one, they all care about safety, which is paramount to the reason why I even talk to them, because I do feel like there are some establishments that maybe are not being as safe or doing their due diligence. And those particular venues are either not going to last, or they're getting cited by the city of Austin, or they're just not safe. And I personally cannot back them. Just because we don't talk about them today does not necessarily mean that. But today I'm just focusing on the ones I do know are really, really, really focused on safety. The second thing that is really important that all of these venues have in common is that they're all doing something they've never done before. They've all had to pivot. I love that's the word of 2020. And they're all doing something that they never thought they'd be doing. They always thought in the day-to-day that they were going to just be promoting shows, and every week, they're booking artists, and they all got into their flow. So when COVID hit, this was back in February, we're almost coming up on a year, guys. Can you believe that? Like a year since this all went down, and we were about to have South by. I remember I was about to go to Cross, or I was actually in San Diego, about to go to Cross Festival when they announced that South by Southwest was being shut down and was not going to happen. And it got canceled. And there was a lot of venues, and not to mention just venues, but people, myself included, artists, restaurants, food trucks. I mean, you name it, retail stores. Everybody depended on South by Southwest to boost their economy. A lot of that accounted for a lot of their numbers for the entire year. So to not have something like that brings in people internationally and just pumps money into the city, to have that just stripped away really hurt the economy. And there were some venues that literally banded together was the name of the initiative. And they came together to really try to make one last run at South by, to save South by, maybe go old school and do it that way. And that unfortunately didn't end up happening either due to safety reasons, and everything shut down. It's really tough on a lot of people, on the service industry, hospitality, nightlife, you name it. Everyone was impacted, even more so. Unemployment skyrocketed. So during that time, venues sat vacant. There was no way for them to bring in any income. There was no such thing as these live streams and the things that people were doing for them. They never even had to fathom thinking about that. One thing that I thought was really interesting that I learned, and it's something that you probably already know, but in case you're not aware, when a show is booked at a venue, there, of course, there's a lot of expenses that go into these shows. Not only do you have the rent of the building, of the venue, they have staff, they have their liquor license, they have their security and their operations, they have the artists that they're bringing in, and all that money is going out. And as they're receiving it, that money goes out to book the next show. So when you continue that pattern and that cycle of money coming in, money going out, money coming in, money going out, when there's no money coming in and all the money's gone out, and now people want their refunds, they want naturally, I think that was a very natural thing when you don't know, like when you're the average concert goer, like I was, and a show's canceled, you typically get your money back. But when this is their livelihood and you don't necessarily know that canceling that show, it's just going to get rebooked for a later date. But that money has now been set aside to pay for something else that goes to that venue, that goes to those promoters. It is just a snowball effect. And it really heavily impacted all of those people. And that's everyone, not just music venues, but promoters and festivals. And, we talked about that in another podcast with Real Music and Throwing Seismic and how they were affected. So music venues, particularly when all the cancellations happened, tickets happened, they were left without anything. And a lot of people began to figure out what they could do. A lot of the restaurants also shut down, but were also still serving curbside. That became an option for them. So we had these music venues like Barracuda, 1-to-1, Plush, Scratchouse. All these venues had to shut down. And these were venues that had been around for years, but wouldn't necessarily say they're these giant, big corporate owned venues. These were independent music venues. So the difference between an independent music venue versus these large other organizations that are out there, you have places like, C3 owns a lot of the music venues in town as well, or they're affiliated with them. So a lot of those shows are then filtered out and gone. C3 shows go to C3 venues. The independent music venues are the ones that have their own owners and their own, the person that you're emailing is not going to some big corporate email. It's going to the person that's answering the phone and is also doing social media, is also doing marketing. And they wear so many hats. But that they're the ones that are just trying to hold on. And unfortunately, C3 let go a lot of their people, and a lot of people were furloughed. Just very unfortunate because C3 is such a big part of this town, with Live Nation and the things that are coming from Live Nation. But the lifeblood of music was very heavily impacted. So with that being said, the venues that then shut down because they don't have that income, the rent and the things like that, the expenses just overcame. They weren't able to get any of these grants or any of financial relief in time, and they've closed down. And these are places that have been staples in the community for years. So thank you to all of those venues that have been around to give us all those memories. And our only hope with those that have shuttered their doors is that they're able to come back into a different music venue, which is what some of the people I spoke to were hoping for as well. So I'm really excited to share with you 3 different venues that I spoke to. that all have three very different perspectives and three very different viewpoints of what is currently happening. We've got Far Out Lounge, which is a fairly new venue. It's been open for about a year, and it's located just south. And it was a venue that was created for the neighborhood, for the people, and for the people that run that establishment. It's for the music and what they love. And they have a very unique perspective based on a stroke of luck for them. So with that being the newest venue, they were gearing up for their first South by Southwest. And they just happened to not only have one of the biggest outdoor areas and concert venues in Austin, they also built a huge bar patio for the outside. And they also built a kitchen because they were planning on having a restaurant. So when all this went down, they were obviously affected, shut down, and then they were able to stay open because of their kitchen. They were able to get their restaurant license. So Austin, very different than a lot of parts of the country that have just completely shut down. There's no music venues. Austin instilled that if they had 51% of their revenue coming from food and beverage, that they could stay open as long as they served food. So you saw a lot of these music venues that were getting creative, and we'll talk about some of the other ones, but that was a huge stipulation to stay open. And they've all been trying to get creative. So we're talking about the things that they've never done before. You have a place that's typically run as a bar, and you go to a concert, you've already eaten. We're not talking about the 2 a.m. pizza. We're not talking about the hot dogs. We're talking about when you go to the concert venue, you're there to watch the show, and you're there to grab a drink, hang out, and we take some shots, but not eat. And now they're having to figure out how to do that and do it socially distanced, do it 6 feet apart, figure out the logistics of something like that. So that was something that Far Out had literally kind of a head start on compared to a lot of the other venues that were really heavily impacted, and they don't take it for granted. I spoke to Lawrence over there, who was very generous to speak with me. And what he knows is he's like, we have no complaints. We're very fortunate. They have now gotten to the point where when this happened, they have so much space. It's open air. They're able to have shows, to have people come and arrive and it be at a safe distance. And they're not everyone's wearing their mask. That is a common theme with all of these venues, is the requirement of wearing a mask. The only time you don't have to wear your mask at Far Out is when you're sitting at your table or you're eating or you're drinking. But a lot of that too is them putting safety first. And I really appreciated that when Lawrence was talking about that. And he mainly stated that the reason why they've never sacrificed that, it was something they had to learn day by day. He was like, it wasn't something that they just knew overnight. Oh, this is how you run. He's like, it's already hard enough running a music venue, but then to have a venue and now to run it through a pandemic and sanitization and all these different elements now that you have to factor in through a pandemic, and now you're running, it's already hard enough. Now add that in. So they really took the time and they made sure they did it right. They learned day by day. They really had to figure out what was best for them. What's great about Far Out is that they also have the ability to, with all these bookings, they're having shows pretty regularly. So if you're looking for a live show that's safe, you can check out their calendar. It's one of those things that there's something for everyone. You know that it's going to be safe. They have already booked out through the summer. They're already booking out now to the fall, which is fantastic to know that there is a venue, especially here in Austin, that is doing well and that is doing it safe and that is doing it right. With Far Out and with the artists that are coming there, there's always the reservations of performing. And one of the things that Lawrence really, really stressed was that they have told the artist if there's been any reservations, if they're hesitant about playing, come out and see the space. And once they see it, they're like, okay, this works. So they're really taking safety number one priority. In addition to that, the ways that you can support them, they obviously have, buying tickets, going to their shows. They have merch that is being ran by FSG Prints here. That is local here in Austin. So you're supporting local twice, which is great. So buying merch directly from them. You can also donate through their website. You can Venmo them. They're very happy to receive Venmos. And that is how you can help, is by giving directly to these venues. That's all three of them. They all have their own different ways to receive that. But, NEVA is great, but NEVA also goes out to 150 different venues versus you have something like your favorite venue that you can directly be supporting, which I thought was great. So that's Far Out Lounge. Now let's talk about Empire, who is also part of Heard Presents, which also manages Parish. So Parish and Empire, Parish is located on 6th Street. It's been around forever as well. I've been to a lot of shows there, but it is an indoor space. And that is something that people right now are still hesitant to go inside an indoor space. It's not a really high capacity at Parish. It's not something that you go into and it's not open air. And so they are erring on the side of caution. So they have not opened it to the public. They're not doing shows out of there. However, they are using it as a recording studio, as a podcast studio. They're leaving it to a creative space. So if you're looking for something like that, you're looking to record, again, things that we never thought we would be doing. Aaron over there, Aaron Owens, is one of the marketing managers over there. He is the marketing manager and said that they're literally doing everything they can. They started off when everything kind of shut down. They were doing the curbside, they were doing merch, they were doing all these different things. And they are another one that has had to kind of learn as they go. It wasn't as simple as, hey, just throw up, like, let's start throwing shows. They had to figure it out. So Parish, recording studio, podcast studio, anything you want, but not seeing shows. Now, Empire is an open air. So there's two sides to Empire. There is the control room, which is the indoor space. And then there's the garage. So the garage is it's literally like a garage, but it's open air, the majority of it. But it's I've been to many shows there. I've been to the garage. So the way it used to work pre-COVID was they would have shows on the inside, shows on the outside, and then kind of like a yard, cool kind of meeting place in the middle. And that's obviously changed. So they have really taken it to that next step of really making sure that everyone that comes there, again, number one, is that they're being safe. They don't do things like a lot of the other venues are, and they're really making sure, they're getting some influx from other places that maybe have been a little lax, and they're having to enforce the rules, such as, wearing your mask at all times with them, unless you're sitting down. A lot of these things tend to be a little loosey-goosey when people start drinking a little bit and getting a little tequila in their system. So totally normal. However, does make their jobs a little bit more difficult. So that is something that was common throughout all the venues that I did speak to. That's just part of what they have and what they're having to deal with. So you have Empire Garage that is now set up with all the different tables. They have the QR codes that you can scan. So you really don't have to leave. And that's really common with all of them. The really only time that you would leave is if you need to go to the restroom, but your food is brought to you. Very safe. The thing is too, is you have to buy a table. So it's 4 to 8 people that they've really kind of figured out. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, is if you go to shows solo. I used to go to shows by myself all the time because I just went to so many and I got tired of buying 2 tickets or having 2 tickets and just being left with one extra all the time. So I started going by myself. And unfortunately, you can't do that in this situation. So highly suggest, I have a Concert Queen Club. I have other things too. There's different organizations and different things that you can join if you're looking for that. But it's all about your personal safety as well. And it's how comfortable you are. The vaccine obviously will change some of these conversations. But as of right now, there isn't a solution necessarily for a solo kind of ticket. What's really cool that Empire is doing is they are about to start live streaming. So they haven't figured out exactly what paywall or anything like that they're going to use, but there is going to be this hybrid that you are going to start seeing. And this is across the board with everyone. There's going to be still people with different comfort levels that want to see shows that can now be at home and check them out, but still have people there that are still able to watch the show safely, comfortably. They are running at a 50% capacity of what they normally run for. So what does that mean for the consumer? Tickets are more expensive. They are trying to pay the artists what they are worth. They are trying to pay for all the expenses to keep their doors open. So that is something that is just the name of the game right now. That is not something that's going away anytime soon for safety reasons. So even more of a reason why these shows are so special, that you do get to go see, but it's definitely something that they're aware of. It's not something they like. They're used to just getting a bunch of GA tickets and filling out and selling out and doing it like that. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So everyone's at tables. They're very fortunate now that they are starting to sell out and they are getting into a groove of these shows and really figuring it out. So that's been a process for them as well. They are now serving food as well. They also received their restaurant license. So they're still figuring that out. They've got various food trucks and various food that you can order, which is really, really cool. And so you're now having this concert experience versus being up and just in the pit or whatever it is that you're doing at concerts, whatever you personally do. I know what I'm doing, but you are now having to sit and eat your food and watch the show. So very different experience, but I feel that if you know what you're getting into, it's not as much of a shock. Obviously, do we want to go back to the way things were? Yes, but at this time, again, we are being safe. We are supporting our venues, and that is how you do it. So how do you support Heard Presents? How do you support Empire in this place? Is you buy their merch, you buy tickets to their shows, and you support their live streams. So there's more to come from them, but this, like I was telling you, like as with Far Out, as with all the different venues, if you can reach out to them directly and help them out directly, that's what's going to benefit them the most. So that was really great. I totally love the people over at Heard Presents. Empire, I personally gone to a show there, felt very safe. Again, it's all your personal comfortability and how you feel. And the third and final venue that I'm going to talk about is Antone's. Antone's is the oldest blues bar and club and venue in Austin. And it's one of the oldest clubs. I know Continental Club is out there, but they are definitely iconic. And they have a reputation in the community of, when you play at Antone's, that's the stage. That's the stage to go to. You can literally walk in any given night pre-COVID and see any amazing show. I used to tell people when they were initially reaching out to me, they've got one venue to go to and they want to just be able to, on any given night, walk in and see something. I always suggested Antone's. Antone's is a staple. They have now opened up. One of the drawbacks and the things that they're kind of, and it's totally understandable that they're getting some pushback on, is the fact that they are an indoor music venue. However, compared to the other venues that are running at 50% capacity, Antone's is running at 20% capacity. So you go in and there's not as many tables, and that place can pack in. I know I went there for South by in 2019 every single night, and Churches was there. I mean, all these huge, huge bands. And I mean, it's all the way out into the street. So they have been doing a lot of different things, and it's way different than just the shows that, like we said, churches and these bigger bands that used to come in. They're now doing comedy. So there's actually a comedy podcast that is being filmed there every Monday, and they're having a great turnout. And that's another one where you buy a table, you have your spot. They're actually having open mics, and that is something where they're going and pulling names out of a hat. So Mallory over at Antone's was so gracious to walk me through all the exciting things that they have going on over there. And it's definitely something that you can tell is it's different. It's not the traditional music that they're used to, but they're bringing shows back. And she was even telling me about like Christmas, for instance. They've always had shows during Christmas. And so to not have a Christmas show this past year was really weird for her, especially when that's been her life for the last 5 years. So she is in the midst of, there's just so many people that are involved with Antone's because of the history, and they are still super hyper curated with who they're bringing in there based on the reputation that Antone's has. And they are iconic in the scene. They are serving food. It's called the Cliffy Dog, named after Cliff Antone. And it is another pivot. It's a restaurant way for them to serve food and for you to enjoy their foods with, the po' boys. And these were things, again, like a place like Antone's never had to worry about. All they had to worry about was serving drinks, and now they're serving food. So you go there, you sit down. They also are only working at the 20% capacity. So their staff is more limited. They've got all new staff in there based on what happened. And it's been different. It's been a total pivot for Antone's in the sense of the artists that are coming in there and what they're doing now. But they're fortunate that they have received some grants. They're going to hopefully all these things are to hopefully pay for the staff, pay for the people that were not able to receive unemployment. We're not able to have any type of support. One of the things that you'll see with Antone's is they started out the gates a GoFundMe to preserve what they had. And they were able to raise $65,000 to really kind of carry some of their stuff. Again, that's not obviously supporting everyone, but that was enough to help support the staff that was laid off, a mass unemployment that happened. And what is great that Mallory, that you don't really see, is they as an organization took a step back and they're like, what are we doing to contribute to society? And they ended up partnering with Six Square, and they're going to be doing some virtual events with them, but that is to preserve East Austin and the Black historical cultural districts over there. And that's fantastic to be able to not only try to save your stage as well, keep your music venue open, but give back to the community that needs it even more so. And during these times is amazing. They are constantly trying to figure out what else they can do. Being an indoor venue and operating at the 20% capacity, they have already figured out the table situation. And that's another one where you sit at your table the entire time. They have people come to you, bringing your food, bringing your drinks. You're not to get up, not to do mingle and all those things. So it really is, as you can see between all these three venues, it really comes down to us as the patrons, as the people that are buying these tickets, to respect these rules. And one of the things that Mallory really pointed out was setting those expectations from the beginning. When you're walking in that you're going to have to wear your mask, that you're going to have to abide by these rules. And that way everyone can feel safe. And she said, for the most part, everybody has. So we can have nice things, guys, as long as we all follow the rules. One of the ways that you can support Antone's, which is also one of my favorite music venues, is by going to their shows, doing all the things that you can do for that. If you're not comfortable going to shows, they still have their GoFundMe. They were trying to reach their goal of $75,000. They have not reached that yet. So you're able to go donate directly to that. They also have their merch, and they have their vinyl store called Big Henry's, where you can actually go buy very rare, any, vinyl collectors out there. I know there's a specific name for it. I don't know it at this moment, but you can actually go and purchase very rare vinyls that will in turn help out Antones. So these are the ways across the three of these places that you can also benefit them. Another near and dear venue to my heart is ACL Live. ACL Live is a huge venue in the middle of downtown. You know that real estate's not cheap, and they are doing everything they can as well. But with that type of venue and with that size of venue, they are able to space out people way more. So they're just doing shows weekly as well. You can check it out. They've got ACL Live, and then there's 310. They also are having their week of weddings. You can also get married there. Who would have thought you could get married at ACL Live? So I did some promo with them. I got fake married. You can check that out. But it is a beautiful space. They plan everything for you with their packages. They're also celebrating 10 years. So I hope we can all wish ACL Live a happy birthday for the 10 years, and to 10 more and 20 more, 30 more. That is a venue that is also near and dear to my heart that we really hope we can save. So all that being said, these are the music venues. If you are feeling uncertain, feeling unsafe, I hope that this has shed some light for you. Always feel free to reach out to them directly. You can reach out to me if you're unsure about how you're feeling with these. You can always reach out to me. You can reach out to the venues directly to find out more if you're not safe. These people are professionals. They know what they're doing. They're able to provide an experience that is safe. And there's not a lot of venues right now that are open, that are operating in this capacity and putting these safety measures in for their patrons. So I really hope that this has helped some of you kind of shed some light on the different venues that are out there, and locally here in Austin, and what Austin's doing that maybe your city or wherever you live can hopefully take a note from and reach out to any of these venues. I know they'd be happy to help, but at the end of the day, that's how you can support them. Number one, buy tickets if you can, support their live streams, buy merch, and donate directly to them if you can. So I hope everyone understands now exactly how we can support these venues, why they need our support, and even more so how we're going to navigate these times. And I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any questions, you can hit me up. I am on Instagram as ATX Concert Queen. This is Concert Queen Connect. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And really looking forward to next week's podcast, which you will see. But thank you so much for being here. And I hope y'all all have a wonderful week.